Hey guys, it is Friday. It's Fast Track Friday with Cassandra Williams, right? This is a capsule of Cassandra information that you can use for K-12 leaders. So really excited today. Today is sponsored by Elevate Ed. Very excited with Elevate Ed. Really, thank you again for sponsoring. All right, so Elevate Ed, kudos goes out to you. All right, let's go ahead and dive in today. Today we're talking about how do we empower educators and leadership, because they need to be a part of this supportive process when it comes to teacher burnout, teacher overwhelm. We know teachers are overwhelmed everywhere. Now, as leaders, what are we doing to support this aspect for teachers? What are we doing with data? How are we visualizing it and making it digestible for our teachers? What approaches can we do to ensure that teachers are reaching their goal? And how's our coaching at the school to ensure that we give our teachers touch points and they're constantly improving their craft? All right, so we know the reality of teacher burnout. So to be really transparent, this is kind of the pendulum that goes and continues to swing back and forth. So when we're coming in, we're still not at 100%. We're like, okay, maybe this will be a great year, right? And then August hits, you get your roster and you're like, oh boy, here we go. Our routines and procedures really set the stage of what is to come. And then it gets better because our routines and procedures, then we have leadership input, and we're hopeful that it continues to thrive. Sometimes in February it gets better because we have our breaks. Our Christmas break gives us that that push for the final end. And then of course, here we go, we're towards the end of the year, everything is testing, and sometimes it's a little fun, but it's all about drill to kill for testing. So really thinking about the phases of teacher burnout and understanding that, to know when you have to kind of put your foot on the gas to do more to support your team. Okay, so we know about our leadership strategies. And these leadership strategies not only help us become a great leader, but also support us in the initiative on providing data to ensure that your teachers understand the data is a part of it. Understand that we are all here for the students. And when you put it in that frame of reference of we are here for students, then teachers are more likely to push, like, why are these pieces this way? And we are all articulating the data based on that. So really, the second thing is really, how do you facilitate our mentorship? Really corrective experience, new teachers, onboarding, sequential spaces, everybody involved, automated tasks for all the people that are mentors. And think always, what is the mentorship stipend for these people that are given their time to show up and to show out? And then what is the documentation or tracking of data that you can look to ensure that this is a fruitful conversation, not only for the mentor, but the mentee as well? Open lines of communication. I think this is where sometimes there are barriers in schools. So when I walk schools, I definitely like to say, well, how do you guys communicate with each other? Typically, it's like multiple group trees or multiple multiple pieces of where some leaders are talking to some teachers, and they hope it trickles down, or the leadership team is supposed to convey that to all the teachers. And sometimes there's a stop gap where we're trying to figure out, okay, where did the communication stop to where the teachers didn't hear about the information? So think about what are your communication channels and ensuring that they are seamless to where it's not like playing phone, like, hey, let me tell you the message, and then hopefully you go out and send it. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. What are your support systems now, and how can you make them that much stronger? Really thinking about what are the burdens that we have on our teachers, what are the initiatives that we can kind of pour into, thinking about our tech and our training requirements. How can we make sure we expedite some of our tech resource to get things going for our teachers, help them out? One of the things I see is sometimes schools will provide training on the thing, right? The tool, and not support with the tech integration. or it takes too long to support with tech integration. So teachers are always trying to figure it out, and they're kind of hijacking and trying to figure out multiple ways to do the thing when it was introduced. If we would seamlessly talk about the tech component and integration at the front, then it makes it that much more easier for teachers to understand. Establish our feedback channels. Like, what does that look like for feedback? Am I always going to give a note after I go into the classroom? Is that an expectation you have of me? Am I going to get back to you within 24 to 48 hours? Or is it going to be an email? Really keeping consistent with your train of with your line, I see say train of communication, to ensure that all teachers already know before you come in that classroom. They already know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and the time frame when it's going to happen. And so trying to be consistent with that and your classroom practices is crucial. And then always, we look at policies and data, and many times it's so outdated. Should you be making an AI policy? Yes. What is the date on all of your policies? And then working to upgrade them, because what happens is we have a new crop of students, we have new issues, we have new concerns, and new policy updates and mandates need to be in place. So think about, what is your team that's kind of looking at your policies, that are helping you with your policies, to update them to make sure they address some of our current issues that we're having in our schools. Now, I can't say this enough. Who are you to your teachers? Mentor. You're thinking of how are you supporting your teachers in a nurturing manner, right? What is the targeted professional development? Now, I say this, you need to put yourself out there. Teachers are putting themselves out there every day. So if there's a skill that you would love to learn it, even if it's an AI tool, learn it, teach your teachers. And I think teachers will feel, oh, wow, they have a little skin in the game. Maybe help co-teach with your teachers in the classroom, really thinking about how you can support them in development based on specific skills that they need and specific growth. And then always think about what are the balanced training that you can have. So although everything is sometimes always academic, when we can put in like wellness into our PD. And then I talk to some of our leaders and they say, well, look, we don't have time. We're about to test. We don't have time to do this. But like, if you continue down this path of, workhorse, there's a personal side to everybody. And you can get so much more with Honey, I say, and putting emotional deposits in teachers' bank accounts and giving them what they need for wellness, as well as the academic. So think about, what is your balanced approach? And then their mentoring. The mentoring should come from everybody. So think of, what are your leadership teams and how can they have direct communication with all the components, right? With all the leaders. So maybe your APs, maybe you have 2 to 3 APs. What does the check-in look like for all these individual pieces to make sure they are growing? And what are the standard topics that they can talk about with new teachers as far as onboarding, to ensure that their teachers are not only connected with their grade level, but connected with their team lead, connected with other leaders in the building, connected with other resources in the building, to understand they know that this center does this therapy, this is our therapy center, this is right, really understanding all the components, all your leaders, and how this plays a role in me being successful as an educator at your school. Always think about broadening your support. What are you doing to have regular check-ins? What are your feedback sessions? And are your feedback sessions all academic? They should not be. Think about, what are your feedback systems on wellness? How are you doing? I was just checking in to make sure you're okay, right? Those are just as crucial as the academic component, because teachers internalize that and say, well, wow, my leadership cares. They came in my classroom to ask me how I'm doing, not to always give me observation and feedback thoughts. Okay, and so thinking about what are the resources you have in school for self-care, right? What are the stress management tools? Who are the people that they can go see when they're overwhelmed in the building? And I always say, we do this for the whole child when we're actually looking at some of the resources, but what does it mean to do this for the whole teacher? right? What do we know that what do the teachers need to ensure that they have exactly what they need to support them in their growth? So always thinking about work-life balance and your leadership modeling. You yourself can't be stressed out running around the building, right? You have to demonstrate those leadership practice of you taking care of yourself. Like if you're doing a morning meeting on your everyday Tuesday or Friday, whatever days you have, and you look exhausted, you look like you haven't ate lunch, breakfast, you look like you had a hard week, right? So really thinking about being mental, making a mental note and saying it out loud. Hey guys, I took a walk. What were some things that you did for your mental health, right? Metacognition, right? Thinking out loud, telling teachers that what you're doing to be well in your school at your spaces. Okay. All right. I cannot see the banners. Let's go continue on where I take this banner off. So here we go. Data and messaging. What are you doing? So I always say, what is your strategy in the approaches that your teachers are in as well, right? Maybe you're creating consistent posts. Maybe your posts are not only academic, but wellness. Maybe you're highlighting the statistics of your school through social media. Maybe there's a tool in your LMS system where it pushes out constant data for everybody to always see. Maybe you're using AI for the back end to analyze all your LMS system to find the highlights or the high points of the school data, and you're posting that like with your newsletter. Always think of what is your strategy for your messaging that goes out with the positive reinforcement that needs to be in your school. And then I always say, it doesn't hurt to share with the world. Like we are cheerleaders of your success. So thinking about what is your LinkedIn approach, because it's hard to recruit teachers. So thinking about always outward facing advertisement, sharing with your network the great things that's happening, the reflections you have, and demonstrating your experience and your expertise on a consistent basis on how you are working to grow your team. And then, of course, always pick a content focus. We always say that the content focus is dictated by the district focus that way because you have the funding for the resources with the district focus. But think of 1 to 2, I say no more than 2 data trackers that you're going to track for the entire year and consistently track. So everybody is tracking that data and thinking of how you're conveying those messages out to your teachers of the vision and the mission of the data in the academic setting. You want to make sure that you are doing that. And then always think path forward. What is our path forward? Because we are all growing in this aspect. So thinking about, okay, data decision making, right? What are we collecting the data? Like what is our AI backend? What are our systems? What do we identify that teachers are using? Because it's crucial if you realize that you paid for a service and only 4 your teachers are using it. Do you need an actual school license or can you buy the license for the individual teacher? So thinking about how all these pieces of data and your vision are being tracked and supported and cheerleaded throughout the year. Okay. And then look at your systems. Think of what are your SOPs, standard operation procedure, and tighten them up so it's consistent. And thinking about what are the problems, what are the solutions, and what happens during each stage. And because you want to make sure nothing is dropped. No teacher is remiss that they had a birthday and one of the teachers not on the birthday list. So really thinking about what are you going to do to support those channels? And proactive. Many times I see some of the concerns when I walk schools are we had these problems, but these problems are not one-offs. They fester. And so there's been a problem for a while before you realize it's a problem. And that's a problem, right? So thinking of how are you proactively modeling the things that how you proactively looking at systems, you prioritizing systems and situations, and you have, we used to call it in teachers, you have a withedness of your building, right? You know what the walls are saying when somebody else walks the school. And from time to time, as a leader, I would always get somebody else to walk the building, to ask the questions, to get a pulse of the school building, to see how teachers are feeling at certain times. Make sure you know that, and make sure you constantly prioritize teachers' well-being, and then support teachers in their initiatives. Okay, what we know, there are a lot of in 2022, 779 teachers were surveyed, revealing that okay, we are stressed out. Teachers are stressed out. And so there were three strategies that leaders could do: is constantly looking at the data, giving it to teachers in bite-sized, manageable components, maybe at the beginning of a PD, and implementing mentor programs around these 1 to 2 ideas around content. Like I said, if you're doing reading, if you're doing reading comprehension, those are your 2 focus areas. It's 1 content area, and then you are mentoring around that topic or around that content. And then in the background, maybe it's something else, but really thinking about taking these data strategies and understanding, and then what are your communication channels around that, and your support pillars. Really looking at tech. Right now, we are using so much tech. How are you going to simplify tech and make sure the systems are in place? And then, of course, make sure you are working with your teacher for wellness. There are so many online resources for wellness and how schools are implementing wellness into their school and into their practice. And so just thinking about the impact on burnout, think about what is your PD, and then what is your ongoing checkpoints to ensure that you are doing exactly what you need to do when it comes to working and supporting your teachers. I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you, Elevate Ed. I really appreciate the sponsorship, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.